Hello, this is Ugo Uche, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing emotional detachment, specifically emotional detachment in response to intense feelings of anxiety. Now, when I talk about emotional detachment, I'm not talking about being cold and distant or um, in denial of your feelings about what's going on, but I'm talking about understanding how to take a step back and look at the big picture. So, here are 11 things to do in order to practice emotional detachment in anxiety provoking situations. So, the first one is um, being able to observe your emotions, right? Without getting caught up with them, without getting reactive. So, you can be angry, but you don't have to engage in any angry reactions, whether it's physical or verbal. You can just observe yourself as if to say from a third person's perspective as being angry. Think of it as being in the sky while your emotions are like the passing clouds. They come and go, but the sky remains unchanged. So the emotion is going to pass, the intensity is going to pass. And in essence, you're just paying attention to yourself as to how you feel and why you feel. Um, the next thing is learning how to um, identify triggers for for situations that provoke anxiety with you. So when you're able to detach, take a step back and look at the big picture, it becomes easier for you to recognize the patterns. What gets you upset? How often gets you upset? Who, what, when, and where, right? All right, so the next step in practicing emotional detachment is deep breathing. In the midst of an anxiety inducing situation, your breath tends to become more shallow. Deep, conscious breathing can ground you. You inhale deeply through your nose, hold for a moment, and then exhale through your mouth. This not only calms your nervous system, but also gives you a moment to detach from the immediate reaction. So the next step is grounding techniques. So techniques such as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method can be very effective. So this involves 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This process brings you to the present moment, helping you detach from anxiety that has you potentially spiraling out of control. The next step is to observe without judgment. When you feel the onset of anxiety, take a step back mentally. Observe your emotions as if you're an outsider looking in. I spoke about this earlier. This helps in not getting entangled in the emotion and aids in evaluating the situation more objectively. Practice positive self talk. That's the next step. You practice positive self talk by challenging your anxious thoughts. So, for instance, instead of thinking this is going to be a disaster, you could tell yourself, I have handled challenging situations similar to this before, and I can handle this too. Always look for uh, an optimistic outlook on the situation, no matter how dire it may seem. Limit your exposure to the anxiety provoking situation. If certain situations or people consistently provoke anxiety, it's okay to set boundaries or limit your exposure. This isn't about running from your problems, but rather giving yourself the space to grow and handle them more effectively over time. So once you recognize a pattern, especially one in which your influence is limited, it's a good idea to take a break from it, depending on the context, if it's feasible. If it's feasible, it's a good idea for you to take an indefinite break from it. Of course, I want to point out that by feasibility, if it's not something that you need to do, if it's not an obligation that you need to attend to, if it's not something that you can avoid, you can take a bit of a break and then work on desensitizing. If it's something that you don't need in your life, then you can take an indefinite break. Don't be embarrassed or shy about seeking support. Talking to someone you can trust, a therapist, for example, or a friend or family member, where you can process your feelings and gain a different perspective is very helpful. Mindfulness and meditation. This goes hand in hand with the breathing technique I discussed earlier. These practices emphasize staying in the present moment. Over time, they can help you become more adept at detaching from distressing emotions and viewing them with a calm and balanced mind. Journaling. Journaling is synonymous with positive self-talk. Writing down your feelings can provide an outlet and a means of detaching from them. Over time, you can review your journal to understand patterns in your reactions and work on altering them. I would also recommend that when you have a negative interpretation of something you've encountered, you want to counter it with a positive but realistic interpretation. Visualize a protective barrier. Imagine a transparent shield around you that prevents negative emotions or energies from affecting you. Visualizations can be a powerful tool to distance yourself from overwhelming emotions. And if that doesn't work for you, you can just be pragmatic about it. You can say, well, I'm not in any physical harm right now, unless it's actually a true threat to your safety. And you can acknowledge that and be grateful for that, and let those emotions just flow through you with the promise that you're not going to react to the emotions. Develop a routine. Establishing a daily routine can provide a sense of normalcy. This can act as an anchor, preventing you from getting too caught up in emotional turmoil. This is one of the most underrated techniques. If you have a routine and something happens that just puts you in a very anxious state, attending to your routine, it can be a form of a meditative experience while you process what's going on. Versus if you don't really have a routine and you kind of live for the moment, you're more easily going to get caught up. So that's all for now. And these are the techniques to use to practice emotional detachment in response to being provoked with anxiety, intense feelings of anxiety. By practicing emotional detachment, you can observe your feelings without reacting to them until the feelings pass. I also like to take this opportunity to talk about my new book, Neuro Mastery, Retraining Your Brain to Conquer Anxiety, Fear, and Panic Attacks. It's out now on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and other major booktellers globally. And that's all for now. I wish you a wonderful day. Take care.